His dad threw open my bedroom door and said, "Carrie, get up, something's wrong with Griffin." And right away they found those blue pills.
At first, I don't think any of us could believe it. Like, we were like, oh, this is a joke.
It wasn't clear, the level of the danger and how prevalent they are.
What's important is that kids understand, that young people understand, that what they're taking has the high potential to kill them.
I wanted to do something to make a difference and protect our kids.
I miss every last thing about him. It's really difficult to talk about when you're talking about your son.
Because her son, a Portland High School sophomore and a tennis star, was just 16 years old when he took the pill that would end his life and forever change theirs. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco at Glen Haven Park in Northeast Portland, near the courts that Griffin Hoffman used to play on and the memorial bench that bears his name. Over the next half hour, we'll show you how Griffin's story has now in some ways come full circle, including how the dealer who now admits to selling the deadly pill that ended up in Griffin's hands has taken a plea deal that means over a decade in prison, how there's some new optimism as youth overdose numbers in Oregon fall for the first time in years, and how Griffin's tennis coach here at McDaniel High has worked to spread fentanyl awareness while also sharing Griffin's love for the game. But we begin with our original piece from June of 2022, a few months after that terrible day. This is Griffin's story.
He was extremely, extremely witty and funny. I mean, mature humor from the time he was like 5 or 6.
And by his sophomore year of high school, his mother says, Griffin Hoffman had grown into a teenage tennis star, a young adult with a big heart, who was still a kid at heart.
I miss every last thing about him. It's really difficult to talk about when you're talking about your son.
But Carrie Cohen wants the world to know about the anxiety Griffin suffered like so many teens during the pandemic, experimenting with cannabis, then prescription pills.
I also had many conversations with him, and so did his dad, about the dangers. You know, he knew there are a few things you never ever do.
But it sounds like you wanted him to talk to you about all of this.
Definitely, and we made it very clear, like, you're not going to get in trouble. This is what it matters, is discussion.
Then, on a Monday morning in March, a school day, Griffin's father went to wake him up.
His dad threw open my bedroom door and said, "Carrie, get up, something's wrong with Griffin." The first thing I saw was his hand, because his dad was holding it, trying to find a pulse, and there was no pulse, and it was just blue.
Did you already have a sense about what might have happened?
I figured in the beginning that he took something. He must have taken something and not known. And right away they found those blue pills.
Pills like these that Carrie would later find out looked like oxycodone, but were counterfeit, made with something 100 times stronger than morphine: fentanyl.
My kid wasn't an addict, you know? He was just doing normal experimentation like any other kid. He was just like a regular teenager. The fact that it happened to my kid is evidence that it could happen to anybody's kid in a lot of ways.
Investigators say they were able to trace back who those very pills came from a street dealer that handed them to Griffin, then up 2 levels, to a 24-year-old alleged drug trafficker they call a merchant of death. A federal indictment naming him as Manuel Antonio Souza Espinoza of Vancouver, caught in late March with this bag of fentanyl pills and a firearm, investigators say, during an operation with a lower-level dealer who cooperated. Espinoza facing 20 years to life, if convicted, court filings read, for selling fentanyl that resulted in the death of a child. The defendant's lawyer did not respond to a request for comment.
We asked the district attorney, who was the last person who knew what these things were and that they could that probably might kill. And they told us every last one.
Really?
Yeah.
Last year alone, we had 11 deaths in the state of Oregon from young people under the age of 18.
And while U.S. Attorney Scott Ospog declined to discuss the specifics of Griffin's case, the explosion in Oregon of the synthetic drug that's easier to transport and cheaper to make means his office is battling an epidemic.
We can't prosecute our way out of these cases. What's important is that kids understand, that young people understand, that what they're taking has the high potential to kill them.
Please make sure that you are not taking these pills. They are designed to look like Oxy.
Which is why the principal at Griffin's school, McDaniel High in Northeast Portland, posted a plea a day after the 16-year-old died.
We're going to take the pills from you. We will not be asking any questions. The grief is going to stay with us for a very long time.
What have you personally learned over the last few months?
It wasn't clear, the level of the danger and how prevalent they are in what our students potentially and what the community is potentially buying. If you're buying anything on the street, it's fentanyl.
And now it's much more clear.
Much more clear.
And that's in part due to a flurry of public health warnings issued to show, color aside, that prescription pills on the left here and counterfeit fentanyl on the right can look nearly identical, with experts pointing out it takes just a few grains, less than the tip of a pencil, to prove fatal.
When we're seeing people OD on half a pill, sometimes potentially even quarter of a pill.
And Lieutenant Chris Lindsay with Portland Police Narcotics and Organized Crime shows us
I mean, this is pretty typical for how it's all shipped up in bulk like this.
the surge has grown so great.
This section of this vault is dedicated exclusively to fentanyl storage.
In their secure drug vault, fentanyl has its own section.
These are counterfeit oxycodone pills.
And they're all marked evidence. They all say suspected fentanyl or fentanyl. There's a lot here. How many pills in here?
Probably hundreds of thousands.
Probably hundreds of thousands.
In 2021, Portland police say they secured over 300,000 confirmed or suspected fentanyl pills. In the first 5 months of this year, they've already brought in 90% of last year's totals, with teens an easy target.
Apps like Facebook, Snapchat, and Telegram are huge. We're seeing it on the dark web as well. This is very preliminary. We're starting to see them come in the form of counterfeit Xanax now. The little white Xanax bars. This stuff is dangerous. This is what it looks like, and it can kill you.
There's no redemption. I mean, the worst thing in the world happened to me. The worst thing in the world. That every parent's biggest fear is what happened.
The reality of her son's death still so raw, Carrie can't bear to look at pictures.
Yeah, I can't.
Instead, this mother finding her memories and comfort in an enduring symbol of his life.
I got a tattoo of a griffin to commemorate him. Yeah, my life pulse, you know. Had the biggest heart. I mean, he cared so much about people. That's what I want. I want people to remember his humor and his heart.
His humor and his heart. You know, it's been 3 years since those interviews, and we're finally seeing what you might call a little bit of good news. So here's what we mean. Nationwide, when you compare last year to 2023, overdose deaths have dropped some 27%, and in Oregon, 22%. And for the first time in years, fentanyl overdose deaths in young people ages 10 to 24 in Oregon, which numbered 86 in 2023, were significantly down in 2024 by as much as 40%. That said, these numbers are still much higher than pre-pandemic, as authorities continue to seize massive amounts of fentanyl pills and increasingly powder. Which is why it's important to have a conversation with your loved ones. Here's an excerpt from our Straight Talk special from September 2022 on how to do just that. Let's talk about families and the conversation you're going to have, and parents who come to you and are worried and say, I'm not sure what my teen is doing, or I know they're experimenting with counterfeit prescription pills or prescription pills, period. Where do you even start that conversation?
I think every parent should be sitting down and being like, hey, I heard about fentanyl. I heard about these pills. Let's talk about it. Have you ever seen this? Any of your friends doing this? This is what I know about it. What do you know about it? Let's come together, right? Let's share our knowledge. And so I think at least bringing it up and beginning to have that conversation.
So how do you talk to parents and say, you got to get away from this knee-jerk, like being afraid or being angry or being upset?
I think young people, they can make really good decisions, but they have to have the knowledge and information in order to do that. And that's our job, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing as parents. We're teaching them so that they can become independent and they can make these really good decisions. And so where I say, trust yourself as a parent, and then give them the information, knowing that you have to allow them to step out and live their lives.
I mean, Carrie, from your own experience, did you find that there were conversations you had with Griffin that worked and did not work in terms of the reaction? I mean, you have a counseling background as well, so some of this was, sort of your bread and butter, so to speak, when you talk to clients about different issues. I mean, this is very different because it's very personal, but what do you remember about those conversations?
Well, again, my whole approach was, and his father's, was that he was going to experiment, that was to be expected, and that what mattered to me most was open discussion, and that he was never going to get in trouble. And so we talked at length about all sorts of things. He wanted to hear about like my drug experiences growing up. He wanted to hear about all that stuff.
And were you pretty open with him about all that?
Totally. I did so many. I mean, had fentanyl been around in the ways that it is now, I wouldn't be here. There's no way.
Well, let me ask you too, Cam, as a father as well, how did you first broach fentanyl with your team?
The conversation came about because I got issued Narcan, and it was an aha moment for me. We teach our kids CPR, we teach our kids how to call 911 when they're young. We teach them all kinds of things. It was my epiphany to talk to my kids, and it opened up a great conversation. And I use the analogy, I don't know that it's still true today, it is because I'm retired, but I'm more likely to use Narcan on a Friday night at a football game than I am for work.
Scott, what about you? What were your kids?
Fatal drug overdose. That's what prompted the conversation. So I have two daughters. One's a junior in college, Hannah, and a junior, and then Viviana, a junior at Central Catholic. Love those kids to death. And what started it was back in 2015, I was helping on a case where there was a drug overdose from fentanyl that happened in North Dakota, and the source of supply was here in Portland, and that's what prompted it. So we ended up working with law enforcement in North Dakota, Portland Police here, as well as the HIT team here and Homeland Security, and ended up doing a warrant in the wee hours of January 22nd of 2015. And I remember right after that was done, going and talking to my girls about it, saying, this is what I had to deal with, or this is what we were working on. And it was because someone, at that time, they had ordered it over the internet, and it was just sent through the mail, and they tried it, and they died. And that was the conversation, was this stuff's out there, and it can kill you.
Yeah, it just hurts.
Coming up, finding a way forward. Carrie Cohen, 3 years on, and her heartfelt message to the person who poisoned her son.
It would be nice if he acknowledged what he did.
But first,
I considered Griffin like my son. He had a huge impact in our life.
How Griffin's high school tennis coach chose to honor his life and build awareness to save others. That's just ahead on Griffin's story, Fighting the Flood of Fentanyl.
He should definitely be remembered as somebody that has a good heart, a leader.
Larry Hermida there, Griffin Hoffman's tennis coach, reflecting on the past 3 years and the loss that changed his life and so many others. You know, Griffin would have been 19 now, perhaps finishing his first year of college and still winning matches, which is why his coach created a foundation to honor his student athlete that's awarded thousands in scholarships and introduced even younger players to the game Griffin loved. Here's a look at our story from 2023, what we're calling Team Griffin.
He taught me the fundamentals, how to serve, how to hit forehands, backhands. He'd stay after practice and show me how to hit. He really literally unified all of us. And I think we kind of all have that love of tennis because of Griffin.
And as Griffin Hoffman's teammates remember,
He's kind of almost like a mentor, if that makes sense.
It all made sense
because of him.
He always knew what to say and when to say it and how to make someone feel, like every single time.
With each step they now take on these courts without their captain, not just sport, but symbolic.
Whenever I'm hitting, I'm trying to get better for him.
And at first, I don't think any of us could believe it. Like, we were like, oh, this is a joke.
Because one Sunday night last March, Griffin Hoffman took a pill he thought was oxycodone, one that turned out to be fentanyl.
I miss every last thing about him. It's really difficult to talk about when you're talking about your son.
In June, we met Griffin's mother, Carrie Cohen, who wanted to share her loss in the hope it could save others.
My kid wasn't an addict, you know? He was just doing normal experimentation like any other kid. He was just like a regular teenager.
And an exceptional tennis player and a leader, Griffin's coach, Larry Hermita, says, who should still be on these courts.
It's a terrible nightmare, you know, to have this happen. I wanted to do something to make a difference and protect our kids.
And so Hermita, who had watched Griffin's game for years before he joined the varsity squad at Northeast Portland's McDaniel High, thought big and co-founded the Griffin Hoffman Memorial Foundation. This tournament is its launch.
I considered Griffin like my son, and so it's really, he had a huge impact in our life and my life, and I know the kids on the team.
After all, Coach Larry says, it was Griffin who recruited many of them. The foundation that bears Griffin's name, Larry hopes, will fund college scholarships, bring more kids who can't afford tennis into the sport, and build awareness around the flood of fentanyl.
I think that's the best thing we could do is to educate them. The more they know, the better they can make better decisions.
I think it's extremely scary to know that, like, you can die off of one little drug, like, and that's it. That's the end of your life.
He would have been 17 today. Every February 15th, I want to have a birthday party for him.
3 days earlier, family and friends held on to their memories.
And I hugged him and was like, I miss you so much. And he said, I miss me too.
With plenty of tears.
I ain't ever had another connection with nobody else. Like, dude, that was growing up, that was my best friend, like, for real.
And most of all, stories.
I always remember him as, like, someone who's just always there for you, like, no matter what.
I don't think there's anyone in my life that, besides my parents, that I've been able to talk to as freely and as comfortably with, and with as much trust.
And from Griffin's step-grandfather, there was this.
Griffin, while he's not here tonight, has given you a great gift. He will be with you always in the memories you have. No one can take those away from you. Not fentanyl, none of that. You've got a friend with you for the rest of your life. Thank you for your stories.
The forever high school sophomore looking on with the words he lived by.
New ball, new game, new match. Basically, what he was saying is that you just move forward, don't look back.
Part of that is so hard because he's saying you can make a mistake and move on, but he made a mistake that he couldn't move on from. I want to follow his words, you know, and move forward as well.
And the foundation and a tournament they hope will be the first of many.
He's always on my mind when I play tennis now.
Is one way, they say, that together they can honor not how Griffin lost his life, but how he lived it.
That it keep his name alive, that it constantly be about helping people. His legacy is how open and giving and how big of a heart he had.
Straight ahead.
You did choose deception. It's the one thing I can't forgive.
Don't call it justice and don't call it closure. Griffin's mother on sentencing day for the dealer who admitted he sold the deadly pill, and on what comes next. Welcome back. This could have happened to anyone's kid. The words of a mother who thought she'd done everything right.
And as the dealer who sold that deadly pill prepares to face the consequences, Griffin's mom has one more chance to send a message. Does it feel like justice?
No, not at all. I don't think justice is really a possibility here.
It's been 3.5 years since the first time we met Carrie Cohen.
I miss every last thing about him.
And 3.5 years.
You know, the pain doesn't change in terms of size or shape.
Since she lost her son, 16-year-old Griffin Hoffman.
And now it's just kind of a part of who I am.
I remember when we first talked, you couldn't even look at pictures of him.
I couldn't look at pictures. I couldn't say his name at first. And now I am constantly telling stories about him.
Stories,
a bundle of joy,
and memories.
Yes,
friends Lovey Zhang and Ashlyn O'Malley share. Of his humor.
Yes, just an amazing, person.
His kindness.
He just always had the biggest smile whenever he saw his friends.
And of a life that suddenly ended. The night Griffin, who his mother says struggled with anxiety, took a little blue pill he thought was oxycodone.
His dad threw open my bedroom door and said, "Carrie, get up. Something's wrong with Griffin."
One that turned out to be fentanyl.
He should have graduated with us. He should have seen his 18th birthday.
Within weeks, authorities tracked down and arrested Manuel Antonio Souza Espinoza, 24 at the time, with this Glock and these pills in his car, court documents show. This March, Espinoza took a plea deal offered by federal prosecutors, admitting that he knowingly and intentionally distributed counterfeit M30 pills that subsequently resulted in the death of Griffin Hoffman. The deal recommending Espinoza serve a little over 13 years in prison.
I don't feel angry at him. I feel kind of nothing toward him.
With just one chance at sentencing.
Reading this will help me.
To make her voice heard.
Before anything else, I would like to tell you about my son, Griffin. He was and always will be my favorite person, the love of my life.
And to address the man, Carrie says, who sold death in disguise.
You did choose deception. It's the one thing I can't forgive. I hope you'll do something to make other people's lives better now, and I hope that you'll do so in Griffin's name. He deserves that. Yeah.
Is that justice? Is it closure? Is it any of those things for you?
No, not really. I mean, we still don't have Griffin, so.
At Northeast Portland's Glen Haven Park.
Oh man, it's
just steps from the memorial bench that bears Griffin's name.
I take it you're not typically an emotional guy.
No.
Griffin's coach at McDaniel High, Larry Hermida, remembers his sophomore tennis star.
Great attitude. He was a leader on the tennis court and off the tennis court.
And reflects on his legacy through the foundation he created in Griffin's honor to provide college scholarships to young athletes.
Best thing we could do is to educate them.
And to spread fentanyl awareness, along with Griffin's love for the game.
Fair to say he's brought people together in a way.
Yes, he did.
Recalling that Griffin, with his trademark turn of phrase, would have wanted everyone to keep looking ahead.
When he makes a mistake, new ball, new game, new match. So it's just forget about the past, move on to the next point.
I suppose that could apply to life as well.
Yeah, it could.
There's no redemption. That's a made-up thing. That's a lie. That's not possible.
Though Carrie now, too, believes in her heart there is a path forward.
Trying to find a way to do it without feeling guilty about that. Because I have a lot of guilt about that.
As she channels the love she holds for her son into her new role as a college therapist.
And I feel like I have all these children.
And shares the laughter that once filled their home.
Where there's this almost tribute to Griffin.
By making others laugh from the stand-up comedy stage.
I was like, you are the only one who comes around here, okay? You are my emergency contact.
Probably would have written jokes for you.
He probably would have, yeah, exactly.
3.5 years in, what gives you hope now for your own life?
I guess keeping in mind that Griffin would want me to stay positive in ways that won't take me down, and that will keep me thriving, and that spreads light to other people.
That's what he would have wanted.
It's what he would have done as well.
My thanks to Carrie Cohen for being willing to share her journey out of so much tragedy in the hope it can help others. By the way, if you or someone you know is in crisis, know that help is available anytime. Just call the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline 24/7. That number is 988. On behalf of all of us at KGW, I'm David Molko, sharing the words Griffin lived by. New ball, new game, new match. A reminder to recognize the promise that each and every new day brings. Take care of yourself and your loved ones, and thanks for watching.